Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Leppy Duels. It's week 16. I'm your host, Jacob Arvidsson, and we are once again presented by Jarvie Media. Thanks to everyone at home for joining us again this week. We're excited to have you. We've got a fantastic show lined up for you today, along with a brand new panelist, so stay tuned for that. If you have not subscribed to the channel yet, go ahead and smash that subscribe button down below. We appreciate your support. If you're new and joining us for the first time, here's how the show works. In a moment, you will meet our 4 distinguished guests. Each of those guests will go 1v1 versus the other 3 contestants. Within each duel, each contestant will have 1 minute to deliver their points on the assigned debate topic, along with an additional 20 seconds, sometimes a little bit more, to respond to their opponent's comments. After that, I as the host will determine a winner of each duel, and the first one to fill up their scoring bar wins the episode. Simple enough. Let's meet this week's cast. Joining us, a now perennial member of the Leppy Duels show, the owner at Crew 42, Mr. Zach O'Haron. Second, and matching up with Zach in the first round of the duels, is the brand manager at Great Lakes Disc, Brian Papa Wolf Frawley. Third, the brand manager at Latitude 64 and a big-time winner here on Leppy Duels, Seth Fenley. And rounding out the cast, joining us for the first time ever, he's the chairman at Disc Golf for a Cause. Please give a warm welcome to Brian Evans. Thanks to all 4 of you for joining us this week, especially you, Brian Evans. Thanks for being with us for the first time. We're excited to see what you've got for us. First up, though, Zach and Mr. Brian Papa Wolf Frawley will be up. You guys are debating the fallout from the Cascade Challenge this past week in Washington State. Cat Merch took down another Pro Tour victory this year, and Ricky Wysocki emerged as a winner on the tour for the first time this season. How much are you guys reading into the winners of the Cascade Challenge? Zach, you are up first. Take it away.
Yeah, for Kat winning, she's a top 5 player in the world. 3 of the biggest kind of players in the field weren't there, in Katrina Allen, Paige Pierce, Kristen Tatar. And she's a talented enough player to win a Silver Series every here and there. And so I don't think it's a big surprise that she won. I'm happy she did. I'm glad she did. But it wasn't eye-popping to see that. And it's similar for Ricky as well. He's a quality player. He's a great player. He should win a couple events every year. Honestly, the bigger story for Ricky is that even though he had a lot of things going for him in that event, for example, he was first place in strokes gained off the tee at 18 point something, incredible amount of strokes. He was first in parked, first in fairway hits, first in green, circle 1 regulation, circle 2 regulation, 5th in scrambling. The really big story for me was that he won, not by a large margin, by 3 strokes, but he still won shooting 47th place in C1X putting. And so this might be a little tidbit here. That putting is one of his better weapons. Maybe we're seeing Ricky make this climb back from being sick. And if he can get that fixed, he could be really dangerous moving forward.
All right, good take. Frawley, where are you going with this?
Yeah, so the Ricky thing is kind of a wash. It's nice to have him back, but obviously his stats didn't match his normal stats. He took down a not full field. It was great. I think this is I'm coming off of the injured reserve, and this is a great way to get the juices flowing and refuel the tank. But I think the bigger story this past weekend is Cat Merch. Cat Merch has already surpassed her 2021 earnings, and it is May still. And she is on pace to more than double her 2023 or 2022 earnings this year in 2023. I think that she is really showing that she's a force to be reckoned with. She's playing about the same amount of events, so you can't say she's playing more and has more opportunities or anything like that. It is really great to see her go after that style of course this past weekend, which doesn't necessarily show off her monster X-Cal forehand or things like that. So I think this was a big deal for Kat, and I'd like to see more from her.
All right, so you guys went 2 different directions. Zach is reading more into Ricky winning and how he won, and Brian, you're going more on the Cat side and how she won and where that puts her at this point in the season. So you guys have differentiated yourselves already. Zach, why do you deserve to win this duel?
Yeah, again, it's going to go back to the cat thing. Brian pointed out the MPO field wasn't particularly deep. You still had some spectacular players. You had Eagle from the fourth card making a huge push. You had some other quality players. Four-handed players in general did do really well at this course. Ricky does have an elite forehand, so that favored him a little bit. But again, for Ricky, it's the fact that he was like last year he was elite. He was the best player on tour. And at this course, he showed that outside of his one strange putting stat, which again, that's one of his best weapons, for whatever reason wasn't clicking. Even despite that, looking healthy, eye test as well. He looked great at the end of the tournament. The other ones, he looked gassed, like he couldn't finish the round. This one, he looked way better. He finished strong, and he still was able to get the win. And for Cat, they're just the three best FPO players in my mind weren't there, and so it's not surprising that she wins. But when they're not there, it's extra surprising that she not win. It's like if Paul, Ricky, and Calvin weren't at an event and Simon Lizotte wins. It's like, yeah, that checks out because he's able to take an event down like that. He's a quality player and should win from time to time.
All right, Frawley, respond to those comments.
Zach, you're just teeing me up again. You're making the point for me. Yes, the FPO field wasn't that strong, but if you look at the MPO field against Ricky, it wasn't even close to as challenging. I would, without looking, say that the average PDGA rating was much better on the FPO side compared to the others than the MPO side. A stat we can't challenge, but I think it's going to be right. Seth will back me up eventually. But you look at Kat going into the Northwest and beating Sayonara, where she was being super cheered for. The whole crowd was behind her. She came back and was aggressive and played well, even with early bogeys in each round. I think Kat made a statement this weekend.
All right, so the way I look at this here, good duel to start off this episode, first of all. Zach and Brian, you both kind of went on your own pedestal to defend your own side, and I think you had plenty of points, both of you, to back up your statements. I'm going to go back to Brian's opening statement, though, with Kat Merch, saying she's already surpassed her biggest winnings in 1 year already, and she's won twice on tour, and I think for that reason I'm going to give you the edge here to open it up, Mr. Frawley. So Brian takes number one duel. We're going to number two here. Seth and Brian Evans making his debut here on Leppy Duels. Seth, you're going to be up first. We've got the Portland Open this week, which you are at right now. As always, you probably got some insider information for us. But this is the first DGPT Elite Plus event that we're seeing ever here in Portland. So I want to hear from you guys. Do you think the added points is a good thing? And does the Elite Plus designation add any incentive for you guys for the tournament? Seth?
Yeah, so I just want to say off the bat, right, I'm here in Portland because Latitude 64 is the presenting sponsor of the event. And the reason why we're the presenting sponsor of the event is because it is the first Elite Plus event on the tour ever. And I felt like that was a distinction that was worth adding some money to and being able to step up and sponsor it. And so from my perspective, the answer is yes, it's worth it. Now, to get into the other pieces of it, what makes it an Elite Plus event? Well, one of the things is that it's designated that because of the added cash and the purse size. We're going to see the purse for this event be over $100,000 this weekend. That's going to be something that is going to continue to grow and move and elevate the event from there. Additionally, one of the reasons why an event receives an Elite Plus designation is because it typically has more than one course, and so you see that with Ledgestone as well. And so we're looking forward to this being a 4-day event with a cut. I think that it adds the panache that you need to see for an Elite Plus.
All right, Evans, you heard what Seth had to say. Where are you going with this question?
I agree with the the designation of being an Elite Plus, but I don't know, again, as far as the added cash and some, additional incentives, what I like about it is it also gives them opportunity. Touring pros are touring pros, right? They are kind of obligated, to go to event to event to event in order to kind of keep up with the rest of the crowd. I think having the plus portion of it to get that extra 50% to their point total gives them the opportunity to kind of maybe take a weekend off to rest and rehab, maybe look at not playing a specific event, prepare for that event, rehab, and with Kristen Tatar was able to take a couple of weeks off and maybe prioritize this event going forward so she can go into the battle.
Brian, I like where you went with that. Seth, here in your rebuttal, and Brian, when you go as well, if you guys can dive into more of the idea of, does this make sense to make Portland, as opposed to any other event, the first Elite Plus stop? Seth?
Yeah, so I apologize for not answering that sooner. So the beauty of Portland is that it has one of the strongest fan bases and volunteer bases that we see on tour. And so what that means is that the event itself is ran well, but additionally we have we're projected to have anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 spectators out here this weekend. And that alone is going to help elevate the event. It allows us to bring in additional resources to support the event and surround the event because we know that we have that many people coming. And so that side of it also helps to bring in that elevation and really sort of pinpoint it, because you don't see that same sort of turnout at any of the events really before that in the season.
All right, fair enough. Brian, can you bring this, your first ever duel, home for yourself?
I was out in Portland last year. The disc golf community is amazing. I do a lot of traveling for work. The disc golf community is amazing and supportive in a lot of areas. I think it's less about the event, about where it more falls in the schedule. You're about a third of the way through the schedule this year. It's Portland Open kind of falls in that. The next event is going to be in another couple of weeks, or another couple of months, actually, in August. So you're splitting up those Elite Plus events kind of in a third, blocking off the season. So I think it's less about the event than it is more about where it's falling into the schedule.
All right, good answers from both of you guys. Brian, I love where you went with the idea of the 50% point bonus being able to affect how players approach the tour and not having to grind, per se, every single week. You mentioned Kristen Tatar for an example. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I'm glad you brought that up. However, I think Seth may have had a small advantage here going first, because you were able to say some points that Brian then was potentially forced to echo. So you may have had a small advantage there, but I'm going to give you the win here in duel number 2. Sends us to duel number 3. Brian Evans, you are back on the battlefield. You are taking on Zach. So we just talked about the Portland Open. That's obviously a big event this weekend. But we've also got Paul Macbeth. He's headed over to Europe. He's at the Estonian Open. He's the only American there, and he's taking on a pretty good field of European players. So actually there might be another American, but whatever the case is, he's the top dog there. Regardless, what is more intriguing to you? Is it the Portland Open or is it the Estonian Open? Brian?
I think both events have their merits, right? You have Ricky coming back off of his win. Can he keep going, battling back? You got Kristen coming back from her break. Again, I think the field's a little bit different, but I think Macbeth is the bigger story here. He's had a very, very, I would say, not slow start. I mean, he had a pretty decent beginning of the year, but April was pretty bad. Took the month of May off, and he's playing in a field that's got 25%. The 25% of the field is just over 1,000 rated, and this could help him jumpstart his season back on track. On top of that, I think it might be something to do with maybe Discraft trying to do a little bit of expanding out into the European format. Their new signing of KJ is kind of attuned to that. So with his European tour and with the additional signing, could be some big things happening for Discraft over there.
All right, Zach, where are you going with this one?
Yeah, I have to disagree here. I think the bigger, more intriguing is the Portland Open. I do agree that they both have their own merit, and specifically for the European event with Paul Macbeth, I think the only people who find that intriguing are European people right now, or the European field that watched that event. For me, it's the same as Jeremy Colling going over to Japan. I'm going to be looking for highlights. I'm not going to sit down necessarily watch that full coverage because of Portland. It is the first Elite Series Plus. That's intriguing in its own. Like, I'm going to look for highlights, and then I'm going to check scores at the end. And I'm going to watch UDisc religiously for the Portland Open. Also, like, when we talk about, he's talked about a little bit the field, about a quarter of them being over 1,000 rated. Well, 23 players in the Portland are over 1030. So we already have more players that are better in the Portland than they are total 1,000 rated players in European. I just don't think that the intrigue there is that. I think it's good for the European field. I don't think it's good for me in America. I don't think most Americans are extremely intrigued in that event for those reasons, just to start.
All right, so two completely separate takes here. I love it. Brian, respond to Zach's comments and double down on it being Macbeth versus Europe at the Estonian Open.
I mean, whether you agree or not, Paul Macbeth is a Tiger Woods of disc golf. And when he does well, the rest of the disc golf community or the disc golf pro tour does well. Him going over there and showing out and coming back and showing that he can come back to the States when he's done with his, I think it's a month-long tour, and come back is really, and again, it's going to be a tough watch anyway because of the time change. You're not going to be watching this live. You're going to be watching either post-production or checking the scores in the morning. So yeah, the Portland or Portland tournament's going to be more in your time frame. But that just said, I think Paul Macbeth and just making sure that seeing him excel and try to make a comeback is going to be better for disc golf.
All right, Zach, can you bring this duel home for yourself? Why is the Portland Open more intriguing than Macbeth in Estonia?
I mean, the field intrigue is already there. We see Ricky coming back. We see, all the way, the FPO field is back to full strength as well. We're going to see Kristen's return. Can she get back to her dominant ways? Because the last time she was here, she took a bit of an L that most people kind of over-exaggerated. But, like, to address the Paul thing, saying that he's struggling, Paul, we could sit here, like, especially the rating. Let's look at ratings for Paul. This is down a little bit. We have to understand that rating is comparison to the field you're playing against. I don't necessarily think that Paul is getting that much worse as much as the field is getting that much better. And so it feels like Paul isn't doing super well. I don't think he's playing up to his normal standard, but I don't think him playing against a weaker field in European Open is necessarily the way to get yourself going. For a lot of players, when you play against really good talent, it pushes you to play at that level. And so I don't know if that's necessarily what he needs to kickstart this, but I think the Portland Open is the way to go here. I think it's more intriguing, and even if I'm not watching it live, I'm watching post-production of that because it's better field, stronger competition, more storylines involved.
All right, and I think that final comment wraps up why Zach's got the edge in this duel. There's more storylines involved at the end of the day. However, I do want to give a shout out to Brian's point on your initial statement, bringing in Discraft, the signing of KJ. I think all of that, plus Macbeth obviously, is huge, and that can't be understated at all because that makes this event very intriguing to watch as well. But I am going to give Zach the edge here for that final comment. I think that differentiated you enough. So point goes to Zach here in duel number 3, sends us to number 4. Mr. Frawley and Seth are up. Brian, you're up first. You guys are debating Simon Lazat's statement a week ago on Instagram. He said, "We need more mandos." Is he right? Is he wrong? Or is he just sitting on his couch bored at home? Brian?
I don't think it's a matter of him sitting on his couch. I really do think that we need more challenges in the game. You look at the late 90s, early 2000s Tiger proofing of many of the PGA courses, making things more challenging for the top tier players. That being said, I do disagree with part of his statement, specifically the statement about play all OB as a hazard. It doesn't make any sense, especially the third part of the hazard rule, like play where it lies. Like, what if you throw it off of a cliff? Like, that would be impossible. Or do I have to go in 10 feet of water and try to thumb her out of it? That would also be obnoxious. That being said, like, missing the mando and playing from where you lie, like, people will take advantage of that. Like, let's keep the drop zones. Let's keep how that aspect of the challenge is. But, I wouldn't mind seeing a triple mando 150 feet down a wide open golf fairway would make the game a little bit more exciting. Think Portland this weekend.
All right, Seth, what's your take here?
Yeah, I to jump off of where Brian ended, I think that the Pro Tour read what Simon posted and they said, "Try us, let's see." This tournament may very well be referred to as the Mando Olympics. Once people start seeing how many Mandos are on this course. That being said, I'll follow up on Brian's point about like playing it where it lies. Like the Mandos are there for a reason. Mandos are there for public safety. They're there to make a hole play the way that it's designed to play. So you need to have the drop zones by it. And I think it's important that when we think about why we need Mandos, we think about what the spirit of the game is, right? Brian talked a little bit about tiger proofing, but at the end of the day, we're trying to make disc golf challenging. We're trying to make it compelling to watch. And if a player can just throw up another fairway because it's easier for them to get to the basket, then that's not fun golf to watch, and it also holds up the other card on the course. And so Mandos are there for a purpose, and I do think that Mandos should stay as a way to end this part of my debate.
All right, Brian, let's return to the original question. Is Simon right or is he wrong with the Mando statement?
Yes, we need more Mandos. And no, we don't need drop zones to get rid of. But yes, we need more Mandos. I would love to see more Mandos even in our tightly wooded courses, making opposite sides of fairways, maybe even changing Mandos. So on one day you have to go down the left V, but the round 2 you have to go down the right V. I think that would be a really great thing for the viewer, which is paying for a lot of this, to see.
All right, Seth?
Yeah, I'm going to also agree on the Mandos, but on a slightly different take. I think that we're trying to create compelling golf, but at the same time, we're trying to create safe golf. And what we see is that Mandos are originally in play to keep people safe, whether that's public or spectators. And the more Mandos actually allow us to define shots better, which creates the more compelling golf, and it also allows us to use courses in a more unique way, which I think is what Simon was getting at with the whole point of his post.
Absolutely. I think, personally, I think I agree with both of you guys. The win here is going to go to Brian because I love what you said about the flip-flopping of Mandos potentially, right? Even in the woods, for example, putting a Mando up, designating a line, and then being able to flip it in the middle of a tournament to, differentiate 2 different rounds. I think that's an interesting take, and I think, honestly, if we talk to Simon about this, that might be something that he's kind of thinking goes along with his statement. So Brian takes the win here in duel number 4. We're on duel number 5, Zach versus Seth. Can anyone tie Brian at 2 wins right now? We're about to find out before we get to the Brian Bowl, of course. What clothing type would you like to see more of out on the course? Zach, you're up first.
Yeah, for me, I think it's personal branding. I think we've already seen this model used successfully as well from Discraft. When they announced their new elite team, it wasn't just about announcing the players and their faces, but their logos along with it. And I think that connects the player not only to the company, but also to what they do, what they throw, and what they kind of sponsor, what they kind of support, and what they do. And so that's a great way for players to not only advocate and market kind of for themselves in that personal branding, but I think it's just good for the sport in general. And it's really easy. I'm actually shocked a little bit in the sport and how they don't necessarily collab more often with that. I think it'd be really interesting for like media on their side, as well as like Disc Golf Pro Tour and all those people. Like if Discmania showed up, Ella Hansen's wearing Kyle Klein's shirt, Kyle Klein is, Eagles wearing it. Then the next round, you see them wearing Eagle stuff. The next round, you see them wearing Ella stuff. You would see that all over social media, all over the place, and people would be all over that. It'd be an amazing thing. That personal branding is a powerful tool. I think we need to capitalize on that more.
All right, strong statement. I love where you went with that. Seth, where are you going with this question?
Yeah, so as a team manager, I'm going to toe a little bit of the company line here and say that I really want to see team gear. And that being said, I think that there's a way to make it individualized and also personalized to the player, right? It doesn't have to just be the like player centric stuff that you're seeing out of like Katrina or Paige Pierce, for instance. But you can look at something like the Discmania jerseys where it has Discmania on the back, right? It's not just a player specific thing. And what I would love to see though is more style from the players, right? Like we see like players like Dean Carey or Jeremy Koling having some really unique flair to the shirts that they wear, and I think that that sort of differentiation is great. But at the end of the day, these players are representing more than just themselves. They are representing the brands that sponsor them, and so wearing team gear is important to me.
All right, so we've got personal branding, we've got team gear, a little bit of overlap there. But double down on your point there, Zach. Why is it personal branding over a specific team?
For sure. And I don't mean this as disrespectful. I just want to point it out. Kind of like making that point, talking about team gear. I probably have never been more bored and yawned, and other than seeing Lone Star post pictures of players wearing Lone Star shirts next to a Christmas tree. I don't care. I just don't. It's not. It didn't make me go out there and say, "Let me go get Lone Star stuff." That's not what it was. Seeing a player with their stuff and that connected to that brand, that makes me want to go get it. And Seth kind of brings up to my point when we talk about style. Let's look at people who have their own branding and their style, like Joel Freeman. Every single time he's on the course, especially if he's doing well, in fact, specifically when he's doing well, and you see him shoot, you get some highlights and you see 3 strawberry emojis right next to it because he is just unique in his outfit. That's exactly what you want. It's his brand, it's his take. And, and if the team gets along, I think that's great marketing. It helps each other, both individually as a player as well as the team. I think it hits all those points with those individual brands.
Seth, bring it home. Can you win this duel?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, the players are representing a sponsor or multiple sponsors, and that has to be taken into consideration when it comes to how they present themselves. And while a player can, a player can't fully represent their brand if all they're doing, or the brand that sponsors them, if all they're doing is representing their own personal brand. And so I think that you have to have, at least in the current infrastructure of how team sponsorships work, you have to have some level of team gear or notoriety of the sponsors on your apparel for it to really come home and make sense for someone to want to sponsor that player.
All right, fair enough. I'm giving the win for this one to Mr. Zach. I think your initial statement was fantastic, and I think Seth's initial statement as well kind of, like you said, kind of helped you out a little bit talking about personal style. I think it all wraps together and backs up the personal brand ideas. So Zach takes the win. He and Brian Frawley are tied here. Mr. Evans, you're the only one standing in the way of a clean sweep for Frawley. So we have reached the Brian Bowl, the highlight of the episode here for duel number 6. Evans, you're going to be up first. What is a cultural norm in the sport of disc golf that we wouldn't find anywhere else in United States society specifically? Evans, you're up.
This one took a little bit of time to kind of narrow down, but I decided to go with lost equipment, specifically lost plastic. Depending on I don't care which side of the field you fall on as far as ownership and things like that. I grew up and I started playing golf in 1992. I would not have fell in love and played this sport without having all the plastic that I found back in the 90s. We didn't put phone numbers on it. We didn't put PDGA numbers on it. It was just, you found it, you went out and you started playing, and I played a ton because of it. Now, again, I find a disc, it's got a number, I return that thing. We got Facebook sites, we've got Reddit sites, we've got every type of site out there to return, used, plastic that's found out on the course to the players. Boxes at courses, things like that. I think it's something that's very unique to disc golf, and it's part of the reason why I love it.
I love the take there, Brian. Mr. Frawley, you are up.
I think it's really interesting. I think we could have gone with style of play, but that's not really cultural. I think that's a great future question. I think the biggest thing that I automatically think of, and whether we like it or not, as businessmen and PGA professionals in the league, it is the use of cannabis. It seems to be overwhelming in our culture, whether it's casually. And again, I am currently recording this in a state where it is legal to use in most situations. So that being said, it is an untapped market of sponsorship as well. And that's one of the things that I hope more TDs and more event runners look into. But from a cultural standpoint, I'm just going to tee this one up, send it right back to Brian. You won. I think that's a really great analogy. The finding, the lost and found. I DNF. You got this one, Evans.
All right, take your victory lap, Evans. We won't even go back to Frawley. You've got 20 seconds to deliver a little celebration.
I honestly thought Brian was going to go with the handshake before the end of the round. We had talked about it at Great Lakes, and I thought he was going to go there. But I'll take it. I appreciate it. That's why I was going to go there, and I'm like, no, that's Brian's. I'm going to go with the lost and found. So I appreciate you, Brian. Thank you.
All right, well, congrats, Mr. Evans, on your first win on the show. Fantastic take. I agree with both of you guys. That was a great take, great stuff. But that means we are tied up, and we're going to go to a tiebreaker between Zach and Brian Frawley. Zach, you're in the tiebreaker duel yet again. Can you get your first win? We're about to find out. You are going to be up first. Here's the question. We've got a scenario for you. You're on the Pro Tour. You're on the final round lead card. Are you bringing a caddy with you to carry your bag or not? Go for it.
I think this is going to be an answer that's a little both and. I think it depends on the caddy and the type of play you are. For me personally, I can take criticism really well. I have a person I can trust completely that won't get me stroked, won't DQ me, won't do anything to cause any type of controversy. He's going to sit there, he's going to talk to me and me alone, and everyone's going to love him because he's not going to bother him. I would bring that person, that's Donut, by the way, in case you know him, he's my cameraman on my channel. I would bring him to any tournament at any time for sure, because I trust him to do that. It also depends on where I play. If I'm playing on the last round of D-Glow, he better be there because I'm dragging that backpack for 3 rounds. I'm going to be hitting the dirt on the fairway of 17 because that thing is that's a course is huge. It's hiking it so much. So I think that a little bit depends. But if you couldn't entrust, if you just had a random person come up and say, hey, can I caddy for you? I probably wouldn't take that because I need to be able to trust them. I want to be able to take that criticism as well if that's the type of player I am. So in that regard, I would take it if I could get those advantages.
All right, Brian, are you bringing a caddy?
Look at me. Do you think I'm physically able to carry my bag over 3 rounds of one of these amazing courses? Have you seen me sweat in a C tier locally on a flat course that's 5,000 feet? Yeah, let's put it at toboggan and see if I don't take a caddy. I'd be picking people out of any hat, but there is a few people that we'd have to shout out. One, let's say for some reason Kyle maybe was injured or Andrew was injured. I would love one of those amazing people. Let's say Phil Delone wasn't working this magical event. Put him on my bag because I would laugh the entire time. But all my friends would look at me right now and say, oh, we know who you would pick. You would pick Dick, Richard J. Engelman. And let me be the first person to tell you, there is no way I would pick Dick on the final day. One, he would definitely get me stroked somehow. Let's be honest about that. Those that know him know that I'm right now. And besides, when you want a workhorse, you got to call Brother Joel. He's like 6'11.5" or something. He could carry my bag anywhere.
All right, so you guys are going the same direction here. Differentiate yourselves if you can. Zach, why do you deserve to win this episode?
We both have some great points. The one thing I would say is that if I'm bringing, for me, bring Donut to the course. I would bring Donut because he would give me a tactical advantage to go for the win. If I'm on lead card, I have nothing focused on except the win. It doesn't matter. And I think Donut's really funny. He's going to know in that scenario not to be the jokester. He's going to help me focus, drive me. If I'm having a bad round and I shoot myself out of it, he's going to then make me feel better about it. He's like the best guy I can pick from. But going into it, I'm killer mentality. I'm coming for the W. That's the first primary reason I'm picking him. I think Brian's going to have way too much fun on this course. If he's on my lead card with him, I'll have fun with him though too. I swear. I like you, Brian.
All right, Brian, can you win the episode?
I can win the episode because no matter what the situation would be, I would have more fun than Zach. Let's be honest about that. I've played myself out of lead cards multiple times. I've played myself out of cash from lead card. Don't worry. It doesn't matter who's on your bag. You're still going to have a great time if I'm on your card.
All right, so Brian's worried about having a great time, but we're on the Pro Tour, the lead card. We're trying to win a big event. Zach, you're going to win this episode because of that. Good stuff. Congratulations. Your first ever win on Leppy Duels. You've got the floor. What do you got for us?
I just want to say first and foremost, it was the greatest upset of all time. This is like the nobody in the NBA just beat LeBron James in Game 7 during his prime in Miami Heat. That just happened, everyone. So aware. But I want to thank Leppy Duels for letting me be on here. I appreciate it. It's always fun. These guys are amazing. I feel like a dwarf amongst giants. These guys are awesome. I want to thank my sponsors, of course, who for me, so Great Lakes Disc, big shout out there. Legacy Disc, Disc All Threads, K Aces, Crew 42. Be sure to check that out. Michigan's best tournament coverage group out there. But yeah, love you guys. Love this. Thank you. Appreciate it. This is awesome.
All right, Zach, good stuff. Shouting out the sponsors. Always a good way to take the victory speech. Well done to you. Congratulations on your first win. Thanks again to Brian, and Seth for being here as well. We appreciate all of you guys for making this show special. Everybody at home, thanks for watching. Again, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. We are now at 250 subscribers as of this weekend, so that means that we will have a giveaway for you next week, so stay tuned for that. Other than that, enjoy the Portland Open. Say hi to Seth if you're there, and have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.